So you've never played fantasy football before? No problem. In this Fantasy University series, I'm going to take you from a complete beginner to the champion of your league. So what even is fantasy football? Fantasy football is when a group of people get together and draft real NFL players to their fake fantasy rosters. They then get to play general manager or owner of that fantasy roster and manage the team as they choose, trading away players, adding and dropping players, and then taking that team and competing against the other members of the league. The best teams after the regular season go to the playoffs in a single elimination tournament to compete for a championship or like something like that belt behind me. So most fantasy leagues contain between 10 to 12 owners. I would be an owner in the league, you would be an owner in the league, and there would also be one owner that's designated as the commissioner. The commissioner's job is to keep the peace, make sure trades are fair, and there's no cheating. If it's a money league, they're also normally in charge of the money and distributing the prizes at the end of the year. This person can get a lot of shit, so be nice to them. And even if your friends aren't into fantasy football, or you don't really want to play in a league with them, you can play with strangers online for free, or be a degenerate like me and play for money against people you've never met before. So if you're looking to set up your league for the first time and you've never played before, I would strongly recommend ESPN. ESPN has an incredibly easy to use app where you can do your draft, you can manage your team, do ad drops, and check your scores all from. So if you have some members of your team that are on the go or don't have a computer, they'll be able to participate and not miss out on a thing. So I think the easiest way for me to explain how a season actually works is to put you through a hypothetical one. So let's say you join a work league, a 10-team work league. Now that you've joined the league, you're going to want to focus all your attention on the draft. The draft is where you get to select your initial roster of players and is one of the most important parts of the whole year, so don't take it lightly. But that doesn't mean you got to go buy some subscription to a site or buy some magazine at the grocery store. There are free resources like the one you're watching all over the internet. So you've done a ton of research, you got the rankings for your scoring settings, which is the next video by the way, and you're ready to go at the draft. You find out you have the number 2 pick. So what that means is you get to pick 2nd overall in the first round, and then you're gonna pick 9th overall in the 2nd round. It's gonna loop around, which is why it's called a snake draft. That's gonna continue through all the rounds of your draft until you've completed your roster. Now a general rule of thumb is you wanna have at least twice as many running backs and wide receivers as your starting roster. So if in your league you have to start 2 running backs and 3 wide receivers, make sure you have at least 4 running backs and 6 wide receivers. So you finished the draft. Now what? Now it's time to set your roster for week 1. You're gonna go to your My Team or your roster tab, and you're gonna place your best players for that week into your starting roster. Now quarterbacks can only play quarterback, running backs can only play running back, but you may have a flex position. A flex position, typically you can have a running back, wide receiver, or tight end play, giving you some flexibility for your roster. So now that you've set your best roster for the week, it's time to watch some football. So let's say you drafted Russell Wilson as your starting quarterback. Russ drops back and throws a 10-yard touchdown pass in the first quarter of the game. How many points do you get? Well, in a typical league, you get 1 point for every 20 yards a quarterback throws and 4 points for every touchdown. So since Russ threw a 10-yard touchdown pass, he's going to get a half a point for the 10 yards and 4 points for the touchdown, giving him 4.5 points on that play. Pretty good. A few plays later, your running back David Johnson runs for a 12-yard rushing touchdown. Running backs, wide receivers, and tight ends get 1 point for every 10 yards receiving or rushing, which is running the ball or catching the ball, and they get 6 points for every touchdown they score. So since David just ran for a 12-yard touchdown, he's gonna get 1.2 points for the 12 yards and 6 points for the touchdown, giving you 7.2 points. You're killing it this week. So you won week 1, but some of your players were disappointing, got injured, or they just didn't play at all. Now it's time to go to the waiver wire. The waiver wire is one of the ways we can add new players to our team. The waiver wire is where you can put in a claim to pick up a player that isn't currently on anyone else's roster. The majority of all NFL players are going to be on the waiver wire. Typically there's going to be a waiver order. The higher you are in the order, the more priority you have to pick someone up. So what that means is if you have the #1 waiver priority, you get the first pick to pick whoever you want up. But if you have, say, the 8th priority, you have to pick someone that the first 7 people didn't pick. Now, you don't have to put in a waiver claim if you're set. You can just stay put with your roster and wait for free agency. Free agency opens after waivers close, and at that point you have first come, first served to every player in free agency. Pro tip number 2, you need to be consistently dropping your underperforming and injured players and picking up potential young breakout candidates. If you pick up that next Odell Beckham, Alvin Kamara, or David Johnson, you got a really good chance to win this thing. Now finally, the last way to get new players on your team is through trading. Trading is when you and another member in the league consent on sending a player from your team for a player for their team. Please, please, please make sure you do your research before sending or accepting one of these offers. You can hit me up on my social media if you have a tough decision. I'd love to help. For the rest of the regular season, you're gonna be ad dropping players, setting your lineup, and taking on your competitors. With a little research and maybe some help from this channel, you're gonna make the playoffs. The playoffs is a single elimination win or go home tournament. And if you make it through to the end and win your championship, well, let's just say it's good to be champion. The next video in the Fantasy University series is gonna be all about looking at your scoring settings to prepare for your draft so you can have an advantage over your competitors. So if you wanna win your championship, make sure to subscribe to the channel to join the Dub Club, because we're gonna be getting championships all over the place this year. Thanks for watching, guys.